Ranyah Salous serves public sector clients at Guidehouse. She's responsible for standing up robotics process automation and data analytics centers and for supporting the implementation of artificial intelligence. In her free time, Ranyah enjoys traveling the world and experiencing fun activities such as skiing and scuba diving. And Ranyah also wants me to let you all know that her division at Guidehouse is hiring. So if you would like to send your resume by email to the Women Who Code DC Career Services email that will be provided in the YouTube live stream comments, then we will make sure that those resumes get passed along to Ranyah. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to kick things off with our first question of the structured portion of this interview. And then at the end, the last 10 minutes, we'll be transitioning into questions from our audience submitted via the Slido platform. All right, Ranyah. So first off, how would you describe intelligent automation to somebody who's never heard of it before?
Sure. So intelligent automation can come in many different ways. One way that I'm primarily focused in is a combination of using robotics process automation and combining it with artificial intelligence. So a lot of times, we have clients that are performing tedious, overwhelming tasks that are very repetitive and using very structured data. And so what we do is we bring in a software called Robotics Process Automation software, and we can program a solution, an automated solution that will actually allow an execution host to run that process for them automatically. So it really allows our clients to focus on more high value tasks, right? More analyzing the data, the information, rather than just performing redundant, tedious tasks. More recently, I would say in the past year or so, we found the need to also be able to handle unstructured data. So that's where we bring in a lot of our AI, machine learning, natural language processing to actually help provide a more end-to-end automated solution. So yes, RPA, robotics process automation, it's not a physical machine, it is a software. It is low code, so a lot of people don't have to be intimidated in getting, actually involved with it as well. So it's a little different than your standard programming languages. But it is something that's very exciting and considered emerging technology for a lot of different agencies. So, yep, intelligent automation is combining standard process automation with AI.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that exceptionally detailed introduction to the field of RPA. I'm sure there is at least one other person out there who's disappointed to hear that it doesn't involve actual robots. But nonetheless, it's a really important technology for our time, and I think we're going to be hearing increasingly about RPA. So with that, what advice would you give to somebody who is investigating different areas of tech, be it data science or software engineering or specifically RPA? What do you think distinguishes a candidate who would be a good fit to enter the RPA space?
Sure. So I think that with RPA specifically, and I think in general, really understanding how to keep up with the technology. Technology is constantly changing. So making sure that whenever you're going into a field that you're prepared to stay, up to date with all the latest releases, the changes, really getting your hands on the actual software or, the programming language to see, is this something I'm even interested in doing and pursuing, right? Because most of the time, technology only advances and gets further. So it's always exciting, to learn, but just making sure you're okay with continuing to learn that. Also understanding that a lot of times, especially in the consulting space, it's not just about hands on the keyboard, right? You really do have to have good communication skills as well. Being able to communicate with the client effectively, understand their requirements, and making sure that you're communicating with them throughout the delivery lifecycle is also very important, and understanding, is this a path I want to pursue with any technology, really?
Got it. Yeah, thank you. That's great advice. And I hope that the job seekers who are out there will consider intelligent automation as a field that may be of interest to them and submit their resumes So, turning now to a bit more about your work, how would you describe your typical day as an intelligent automation manager?
So my days sometimes are long. Oftentimes I wake up pretty early just to get a head start. Since I am in a manager role now, a lot of my day is filled with meetings. So oftentimes I wake up early to work on some of the deliverables that I may have. Oftentimes that's creating, a solution for a client. So designing, what does that solution look for, right? How do we apply intelligent automation in their space and apply it for their business needs? Then most of my day, a lot of times, is actually communicating our capabilities, right? Spreading awareness, making sure that internally within the firm and externally, people understand the different capabilities within RPA and intelligent automation. And then also, a lot of times, it's also, training people in the technology, right? So a lot of people may not have experience with RPA or with AI, and they're interested in knowing more. So even just expanding people's current skill sets so that we can grow our team. So yeah, my typical day starts pretty early, so I can work on some of the deliverables, and then usually I'm meeting with different stakeholders, clients, management, spreading awareness about our capabilities, working on proposals sometimes, fun writing, but that's what makes the business go, right? So it varies day by day. And then sometimes, you have a little less busy days, and it's great because then you can get to explore and research and see what else is out on the cutting edge. So yeah, it's a very exciting position that I'm currently in, and definitely never boring.
Never boring. Yes, it sounds
never boring.
That's definitely the case. Great. So could you speak a little bit to the culture at Guidehouse?
Sure. So our culture is, I would say, a mix of very, very, very driven professionals, but also a very collaborative environment, right? Mm-hmm. So it's sometimes, I think, in certain consulting agencies, there's like overwhelming competitive, right, environment. I feel like Guidehouse, you have some of that, but it's really more how do we collaborate as a team. So like if I have a coworker that specializes in artificial intelligence and I have another coworker that specializes in RPA, we're often on calls together to figure out how do we collaborate for a combined solution with our clients. We're constantly hosting different events. I just actually did a Women in Defense seminar a few weeks ago as well. So we also look at different initiatives as to, making sure that we're making sure that there's like an even playing field and that people have access to information and resources so that if they want to grow their career in a certain area, that we're making that available. So it's a very exciting culture, very transparent with our leadership. I have a very good relationship with my leadership, and a lot of room for innovation. They really do push you to think outside of the box and bring those ideas to the table. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's awesome. And I wanted to ask specifically, what advice do you have for women entering the field of technology?
Yeah, I would say don't be intimidated, right? Learning new technology, because it does constantly change, it could be overwhelming. I would say that make sure you understand what path you want to pursue. Do you want to pursue a more technical path your entire career, which is usually an option? Or do you want to start off technical and then move into more of a leadership role? So understanding what path you want to pursue, and then don't be overwhelmed by the technology. There's a lot of resources online to help. And then also understanding that it's okay to be transparent, whether it be through, understanding that this is not for me, or whether it's something that you're interested in, maybe joining a different project. It's okay to have open communication channels with your leadership to make sure that whatever you're doing is something that you're excited about.
That is so important. It's so key to be able to bring your full self to work and to feel that you're still learning and growing on a regular basis, right? So, so that's very much aligned with the mission of Women Who Code, which I'm just going to take a quick pause to talk a bit about. So this is an organization that has 70 plus cities around the world, and really devoted to empowering women in technology. So Women Who Code offers coding resources, leadership opportunities, a job board, and a global community for female learners, along with events like this, the DC chapter's Career Services Day. So with that, I'm going to jump back into my interview with Ranyah Salous. If you're just joining us, Ranyah is a manager at Guidehouse. She focuses on intelligent automation there. And so far in our conversation, we've talked a bit about her advice for women entering the tech space, really like the passion and the drive that she brings every day to learning new things in this space and translating that into her work for federal clients. So just a couple more questions before we hop into the audience question portion of the event. And again, if you have questions there, please make sure you're submitting them through Slido. All right, so Ranyah, what predictions do you have for the next 3 to 5 years in intelligent automation?
Yeah, so there's a few. We've definitely, like I said, seen an increased need to bring AI, combining AI with RPA, and that's becoming a regular part of the process now. So as far as predictions go, I honestly see that a lot of the different things that we currently engage with, so if Google search or a lot of the different platforms right now, I definitely feel like it's going to become a lot smarter, right? So AI and automation becoming a regular part of people's lives in every type of way, right? Whether it's through smart cars or whether it's through having a collaborative communication with a platform. So we're getting there. I think we've made a lot of headway and we're entering in a lot of the space, but just allowing the technology and the application of it to mature, I feel like it's going to be a stronger presence in a lot of different business processes. So yeah.
All right, thank you for that. That's helpful to think about too, as as the capabilities of AI are significantly shifting over time. It'll be intriguing to see where we are in 3 to 5 years, if it's kind of been more of the same or if there's been major disruption that's kind of like threatening, like thunderclouds on the horizon. So, so I think yeah, it's a really interesting field, and I really appreciate you sharing your expertise with our community. A couple more fun questions, and then we'll hop over to questions from the audience. So what's your favorite nonfiction book, and what is your favorite fiction book?
Yeah, so I would say from nonfiction, the one book that I still always remember was Barack Obama's The Audacity of Hope. And I remember, I want to say I was at some point in high school. I'm not trying to give my age here, and I remember reading it and it just making such an impact at such a young age. And then, thereafter, him actually becoming president was just such a significant way for me to get involved in that process. So that was a very inspiring book that I still remember. Fiction, I actually really like this Greek methodology book called Circle. And it also talks a lot about like a woman battling a lot of different very exciting adventures, and it does refer a lot back to like Greek methodology, but so it's called Circle, but it's a really cool book, and if you have a chance, read it.
All right, thank you for that. And the Circle book, is this fiction or nonfiction?
Circle's fiction.
Fiction, okay. Fabulous.
Yeah.
All right, and okay, so also wanted to ask you about your favorite resources for learning in this field.
Yeah, there's many. There's many resources. Of course, you have Udemy. That's like has a lot of information around it. Specifically with the RPA side, a lot of the different softwares like UiPath, Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere, they actually have a lot of different trainings on their website. So if you actually go to like UiPath Academy, they have trainings that can actually help you from the ground up learn how to program RPA solutions. similar with Blue Prism and Automation Anywhere. So there's a lot of resources online. What I often recommend for my team is to go straight to the source, which is usually the software, and then learn from their offerings. And then, of course, until you get your hands on the keyboard, that's the best way to learn, right? Through experience.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad to hear that the stakeholder companies in this space are so proactive about putting out good resources. I think that's a reoccurring theme in these conversations. It's just like there's so much out there to learn, and there's so many different ways to go. And really, the main cost to you is your time and attention, and the challenge of choosing where to put your energy.
Definitely.
So let's talk about something that you mentioned really gives you energy, which is traveling. So I'd love to turn the conversation to how you integrate travel into your life as a busy professional, and how you use your experiences here to re-energize you.
Yeah. So I am very busy, right? So I love what I do, and part of that means me taking on more responsibilities because I enjoy it, and it shows through my work. But that could be exhausting after a while, right? So I often make sure that although I am very driven and I do work very hard, that I do make time for other things that I enjoy in life, and one of those things being travel. So I'm not afraid to talk to my director and say, I would like to take 2 weeks off to go to Europe, or, pre-COVID, of course, and to make that time for myself. And it honestly allows me, to get refreshed and reset and revitalized, so that when I do come back to work, I don't feel so drained, but also it gives me different perspectives, right? It helps me build on my communication skills and understand different perspectives on, or how different countries are applying technology, right? So getting those different experiences allows me to really, put some of my energy in different areas so that I can come back with a more fresh approach. And it's exciting, right? It's fun to get to travel to different places in the world. And it's something I honestly always communicate with my team about. Like, if you have the chance and the opportunity to pursue it, do it.
Yeah, just go. That's so great.
Just go.
It's really good advice, and it's really valuable to hear the perspective of a female leader in business on how to take breaks, how to achieve, fulfillment. If not balance, then at least how do you take breaks where you can learn and grow and build yourself up, and then come back and continue to really succeed in your work. And so, looking back on your career, I wanted to get your sense for how your goals may have changed since you first started work.
Yeah, so when I first started my career, I was actually focused more on information systems, so dealing with more, it significantly changed because originally I was doing more application support and development, and then I got introduced to automation within that. So now for me, I guess you could say it's always my goals, in a sense of always learning new technologies hasn't changed, right? That's going to consistently be a part of my growth, but maybe the subject matters that I was focused in have shifted a bit. Ultimately, I think I was focused more on the technology when I first started my career, and now I'm more leadership oriented, right? So I think as time goes by, sometimes your goal is, okay, now I want to grow my team. I want to grow our capabilities. I want to look at things more from a strategic perspective, versus when you first enter the career world, you're typically focused on, okay, how do I deploy a very sound solution, right? It's maybe more on a granular level. So really just, looking at things from a higher level, from a more strategic perspective, and focusing more of my energy in leadership opportunities.
Absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned in your response to a previous question around advice for women in technology, that there is a technical route that you can go down where you're becoming increasingly specialized, and that imperative to learn and grow and try new things is still there, but your day-to-day focus is on solving these technical challenges. And then there's also this path of pursuing a broader, more strategic role. So I'd love it if you could speak a bit to some capabilities that you think have really served as kind of your superpower in terms of delivering in this strategic capability.
Yeah, so I would say the ability to understand the client's needs and the problem, right? So I think having that ability to fully be a subject matter expert in whatever technology that you're, focused in on, so that when the client communicates their need, you understand what solution to present, right? So I think that as far as like superpowers go, it's really just doing your research, getting your hands on the technology, and making sure you're thoroughly a subject matter expert and you know what you're talking about, right? That's how you're best going to succeed, because they're going to challenge you, right? You're going to have people that question your suggestions and your solutions. And then you're going to have people that rely on your expertise. And so just making sure that you really understand what you're trying to solve and the technology that you're recommending to apply for that solution is key. Also, another maybe not really from a strategic perspective, but another superpower that I feel like is very important is your ability to prioritize, right? So our team has a very busy schedule. I mean, we're doing so many different things. Sometimes it is me getting my hands on the keyboard and helping because we need surge support and getting things delivered. Sometimes it's me helping train people or whatever the case may be. So understanding that you might have 100 things in your backlog for things to do, but what is the most important, right? Obviously, we're very client focused, making sure that the client is happy. So making sure that delivery is successful is often on the top of that list. But even amongst your plate of activities, understanding how to strategically prioritize so that you're making sure that you're focusing your energy on the most immediate needs is very important, right? So time management, prioritizing your activities is super important.
Consulting is so valuable for teaching those skill sets. It really is. You learn not only the technical skills, but also the self-management skills in order to make sure that you are really delivering to the client's needs.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, can you speak a bit to the difference in serving federal clients versus commercial clients?
Yes, I've had the pleasure of serving both. So I would say it's different. It's different because in the federal space, there's a lot of different security considerations that sometimes aren't as stringent on the commercial side. So it's a challenge sometimes because you have this solution in mind you want to implement, right? But there's so many layers to consider in the federal space from a compliance and security perspective. Or getting authority to operate, right? So having the ability to actually use the software in their space, because there's classified information, right? So on the commercial side, you don't really have that challenge as much. So dealing with a top secret environment or dealing with classified information, you don't really need to worry about that. But in the commercial space, what is challenging is things are done a lot more quickly, right? Because you don't have those obstacles. So you have to be prepared to deliver at a very fast pace. But yeah, each side has its pros and cons. But I do recommend getting experience in both so that you have a more holistic approach and are prepared to handle either side. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And I wanted to ask broadly, what other advice you might have that's specific to women as they're going into the workforce? Any tips or tricks or potential pitfalls that you've seen in your interactions?
Yeah, my advice would be to make sure that you focus your energy in the right areas, that you do approach it with an exciting, optimistic, view, because a lot of the compliments I often get from leadership is that, not only am I really good at doing what I do, but that my attitude is very positive and it makes people want to be around me, right? So that does transcend even in the client space. And I've heard multiple people, it's not enough just to be that way. You do need to be able to be really strong in delivery as well. But I think just having that type of excitement, it takes you far. And if you don't, maybe it's not the right place for you. Maybe you want to explore different things, whether it be finance or other areas. So really finding an area that you're excited and want to learn more about and continue your career in is super important. One other thing, and I know, Nicole, we talked about this earlier, is as you're beginning your career and even throughout your career, transparency is key. And sometimes that means negotiating your salary, right? Don't be afraid to communicate what your salary expectations are. Up front, when you're first joining the firm and also during your career. I know that was a challenge for me when I was younger, having those tough conversations, but it's definitely something I've become more comfortable in and encourage my own team to do so, right? So it's okay. It's okay to talk about your salary. It's okay to negotiate it. Do your research and see what's the market value and making sure that you're being compensated fairly.
Yeah, I think that those are two really excellent tips. First, around bringing energy, bringing your authentic self to the workplace, and using that energy to inspire and encourage others on your team, on like the client side in terms of sales. I'm sure that this really has a major impact. And the second part of your response around making sure that you are putting yourself forward to have tough conversations. And certainly the research shows that women do struggle with this. So as more women enter the tech workforce, I think it'll be, it's important for us to think about and to encourage our friends as they're starting those new jobs. Make sure that you're like really putting yourself forward, even if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, that about does it for the structured portion of the interview. And Ranyah, I'm just so grateful to you for coming to our community, for sharing about your management expertise, the depth of your knowledge in tech, your experience serving both federal and commercial clients here in DC. So any last words of wisdom for the group before we sign off?
I would just say it's honestly a very exciting field to be in technology. I am very glad that I pursued this path. And it's also from a job security perspective, also, a really smart area to consider growing your career in. But there's so much out there. So just really find out like what you want to specialize in, and that might change, right? And that's okay if that changes throughout your career. But super excited if people are interested in getting into technology, especially for women, because we do want more out there, right? And I think it's a great path to pursue. And definitely feel free to reach out to your mentors and other women in the field if you ever need advice.
Fabulous. Okay. Well, thank you so much again, Ranyah. And just a reminder to our audience, if you're watching this right now, you can submit your resumes. The email address that we're using to collect them, it's been posted in the chat. It's WWC DC Career Services at gmail.com. And we'll make sure that, if you specify that you're interested in roles related to intelligent automation, that your resume will find your way into Ranyah's hands. So we're just very grateful for that offering, also for the advice and encouragement that you've shared throughout this presentation, Ranyah. So really very grateful, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for having me, and look forward to seeing those resumes. All right. Bye.